everybody, and welcome back to Cask and Points. Today we're going to be trying some good Old Carter. So Old Carter is a brand that I haven't reviewed yet here on the channel, and it's a little bit more on the nicher side of things, but they really have a strong cult following. Most of the people that I know that own one bottle of Old Carter tend to own 5, 10, sometimes even 20 or 30 bottles of the stuff. They just cannot get enough. But not that many people are like that. A lot of people haven't tried the whiskey yet, haven't really given it a fair chance, and so today we're going to find out if it's really just for us with a pretty awesome blind. Now I have 4 bottles of Old Carter here, just to go through them. We have Old Carter Rye. This is batch 12, it's 116 proof here, and it's out of 3,200 bottles. So they're usually batched products, but not a really big batch. About 3,000 bottles seems to be the standard, somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000. And so the second bottle here we have is Old Carter American. This is batch 3. It's 138.1 proof, and this is a batch of 2,487 bottles. Bottle number 3 here is Old Carter American batch 11. This is 134.6 proof and 2,786 bottles. And then we have Old Carter Bourbon here. This is batch 3GA. So I believe this went to Georgia. This is 116.8 proof, and this is 1,070 bottles. And so we have 4 of what I've heard to be some of the best Old Carters out there. A good range here, a bourbon, a rye, 2 of the Americans, and 2 very different Americans. And then the 5th thing here is a little bit more mysterious. We have an Old Sport. So let's get into a little bit of history. Old Carter was started by Mark Carter in 2017. They previously run the Kentucky Owl brand in 2011, sold it in 2017, started Old Carter, and then Old Carter did these bourbons, these ryes, all these batch products, typically pretty small batches, not that many bottles to really go around, and the MSRP in these bottles is somewhere around $200, $250, and the secondary market usually $300, $350, but for some of the special ones can get upwards of $800 or even $1,000. Now, the brand ended up hurting quite a bit towards the last few years. I believe it was owned by a married couple with Mark Carter, but unfortunately the marriage just didn't really work out too well, and so they ended up having to dissolve the brand. However, Mark Carter actually ended up being able to buy back the brand, and they started this Old Sport line as a little bit of a celebration, and it's supposed to act as their single barrel series. Old Carter hasn't done any single barrels yet. Now, Old Sport can be that Old Carter juice put into single barrels as their single barrel program, and they've started off with 11 barrels. And these are supposed to be 11 barrels that really give people a very good idea of the Old Carter brand, really gets it into more people's hands, and then hopefully that'll grow the Old Carter brand moving forward. And so for many months, we thought that Old Carter was going to die. To my understanding, at least, it's not going to die. It has been bought back by Mark Carter, and so we are going to see more Old Carter releases in the future. But Old Sport here is brand new, so we're going to try it here today. So we have these 4. We have Old Carter. We have barrel number 11, and this was from a good buddy of mine named Marcos. So thank you, Marcos, for sending me the Old Sport sample. And a big, huge thank you to my good buddy Nick Garcia, who sent me these bottles here. He is a big Old Carter fan, exactly who I was referring to in the beginning of this video. Somebody that owns 30, 40 bottles of this stuff, cannot get enough of it. He sent me 4 of his favorites so that I could do this flight. So could not have done it without the 2 of you. Thank you guys so much. But let's get right into the flight here and see if we're drinking some pretty good whiskey. So glass number 1 here. Ooh, that's nice. So this one to me, very sweet. A lot of caramel on this one. But as I get into it a little bit more, definitely a good amount of tobacco on here as well. Some cherry on this one. Pretty reminiscent of like Michter's 10-year bourbon, but a lot more proof on this. Now, I haven't really tried any Old Carters before. I've tried a select couple. I've had batch 16 bourbon. I've had batch 15 bourbon. I've had, I think, one of the ryes and one of the Americans, and I can't even remember the batches. So I'm really not too familiar with Old Carter's stuff here. I'm not sure if the rye will really taste like a rye, the bourbon will really taste like a bourbon, the American will taste like its own thing, or if they might actually blend a little bit together. I guess we'll find out here. Let's take a sip. Oh, that's interesting. Surprisingly light on the palate. So it definitely gave me that really sweet caramel on there. A nice like cherry candy on that. Good amount of tobacco though. Tobacco, leather on that one. And now that was a flash of flavor in the front palate there. Died off relatively quickly though. I may have to take a second sip here and just really see. But that was an interesting first pour for sure. That's good. That's good. On that one, I definitely got more flavor on the mid and late palate here. The finish is going to be somewhere around medium length, maybe even medium long length. that sweet caramel and that cherry definitely lasts for a good bit. But honestly, there's just a good amount of heat on that back end here. Like right now, all I'm feeling is just a lot of heat. And it's not a bad feeling. It's like a nice warming sensation. That's good. That's good. I don't think it's anything absolutely stellar, but I think for an introduction to Old Carter, it was pretty solid here. Let's keep moving on. So glass number 2 here. That smells really light. A bit grassy, a bit herbal. Not loving this one nearly as much as the other one. It's just very light, very soft caramel on this one. There's vanilla on this one, a little bit of oak. Kind of smells like American whiskey from what I've had. Now, to my understanding, Old Sport is all American whiskey, and so it's like the American Old Carters. Odd choice, in my opinion, to start off with an American whiskey. I don't know why they didn't start off with a bourbon or a rye, but I've heard pretty mixed reviews so far. Some people seem to be absolutely loving them. Some really not as much. So I guess we'll find out here what we think. Yeah, this is just really solid. I'm like fighting to get any notes out of this one. Let's take a sip. Okay, the flavor on that one is pretty good. Pretty straightforward though. It's caramel, cherry, a little bit of tobacco, a little bit of leather, but it's really light. Like all these flavors, it's actually a pretty similar flavor profile to the first one, except ramp down the sweetness a little bit. Take down the sweetness a little bit. So not nearly as much caramel or cherry, and just everything in general is just much lighter. Like I don't dislike it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whiskey, but Now, the Old Sport whiskey has an MSRP of $250 to my understanding, and again, only 11 barrel groups in the entire country were able to get it. And so it's important for us here to really see if we like it. Obviously, I don't know if this is the Old Sport, but one of these has to be the Old Sport, right? Let's take a second sip. It's very light. It's very light, it's very innocent. Let's just say, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't really have any negative flavors going on in there. I have a little bit of sweetness in the front palate. I have some cherry in the mid palate. I have that herbal, the cloves, a little bit of mint, lavender, those kinds of notes on the late palate there. Finish is pretty short, it's short to medium length. It's fine. It's nothing particularly special. I definitely liked the first pour significantly more. But let's go on to glass number 3. Oh, this one is sweet too. This one actually is much more reminiscent of the first glass. Definitely getting more of the herbal notes. Definitely getting primarily caramel and vanilla on this one, not nearly as much of that red fruit. Yeah, a little bit of that dark fruit if I get really into it here, but this is primarily a caramel, vanilla, brown sugar, and then a little bit of herbal notes really in that back end. Let's take a sip. That's good. That's good. I don't like it as much as the first glass for sure. I think the first glass to me had a similar flavor profile, except less herbs, more cherry, and that's what I preferred. But I think this one to me comes off with that sweetness in the beginning of the palate, gets herbal towards the late palate. Honestly, kind of reminiscent of glass number 2 here, but just more flavor going on this one. It's just better. Let's take a second sip here. It's good. It's good. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a bad pour at all. To me, that's not my cup of tea. I think glass 2 and 3, they were a little bit rough around the edges. They were solid. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're innocent. They don't have as much flavor as I think that first glass had. And to me, that flavor profile, that's just really soft caramel and vanilla, and then actually a much stronger herbal note as I really get into it. Nah, I'd rather the cherry, I'd rather better oak presence on it, these kinds of things. But let's go on to glass number 4. Oh, this is really sweet on the nose. Oh, wow, I'm getting like rye candy right off the nose on this one. Obviously, I don't know if this is the rye, but definitely on that first little bit here, smelling like a rye. Definitely have like really strong sugar cane, a little bit of coconut on this one. That kind of seagrass, you know, that really rye candy note on there. A good amount of caramel, though, and good amount of vanilla on this as well. That's nice. Oh, that's a very relaxing pour, like a nice tropical pour on this. Like, I'm honestly really getting, like, pineapple as I get into this as well. Wow, this is good. Let's take a sip. solid, very solid. Rye candy on the palate. That's really all I got on this one. It was surprisingly flat on the palate. I was hoping for a little bit more, but it could just be the first sip there. But yeah, I mean, it's rye candy. I mean, it's coconut, that sugar cane sweetness, a little bit of pineapple on this one, like really, really stereotypical rye candy. Not really super herbal, which I'm liking, actually. I like the sweeter rye flavor profiles, which I would associate with like a sugar cane, like a coconut, these kinds of notes. I like those more than the herbal, the cloves, the mints, the lavender. So yeah, this is actually really, really nice. This is definitely one of my favorites. I'm liking it a lot more than 2 and 3. I think 1 and 4 right now, definitely my favorites. That's good though. Let's take another sip. That's interesting. It's just a little bit too light on the palate. I think the nice part about glass number 3 is that I was getting a lot on that palate, but I think on glass number 4 here, it's just really light, but it's also relaxing and nice and crushable. And I know a lot of people like their crushable whiskeys. To me, this is almost like a Michter's barrel strength rye, but a little bit more refined, and that's really, really good there. Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Let's go on to glass number 5. Okay. Pretty punchy on the nose here, pretty, soft caramels on this one. Pretty similar to glass number 3 here. Definitely pretty oaky as I really get into it. A little bit of heat. Not super complex though, and a little bit herbal towards the late palate. Let's take a sip here. It's good. Oh, it's actually really nice. It started off similar to glass number 3, but then it got into much more like bourbon-y flavors, like a rich caramel, a rich molasses, brown sugar. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's actually, yeah, that's really good. And it actually improves. Like, I like the late palate more than the mid palate. I like the mid palate more than the front palate, which is always fun in a pour. It's usually the other way around. It's usually like there's a lot of flashy flavor in that front palate and then it just kind of dies. But this one actually got better over time. Here, let's take another sip. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. That one is more balanced between the flavors on the front, mid, late palate, but yeah, very nice on this one. I don't think I like it as much as glass 1 or 4, but I think it's probably my third favorite here. It's sweet. It's definitely a little bit simple, and it's not drinking super high in proof. I know these Americans are pretty high in proof, so honestly nothing here is drinking anywhere close to 138 proof. We're really like drinking in the 110s, maybe low 120s proof for the most part here, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I'm definitely getting a good amount of flavor on this. I just think there's also a little bit of a note in there that I typically associate with American whiskey, where it's a little bit rough. There's like a little bit of like a cheap caramel, a cheap vanilla on it. Nah, I don't know. Okay, so we have the 5 here. Now, I have my predictions just right off the get-go, and I'm not going to say them just yet. We'll go through one more time. We'll give some ratings and rankings, but I will give my guesses before we find out the reveal, because I haven't tried any of these whiskeys, but I almost feel like just based off of the stats and what I've heard about these bottles, I can make some pretty good predictions. But it's always fun to see if I'm way off or if we're getting here. So let's get right back into it. All right, so let's get right into it here. So I think 1 and 4 were up there for me. I think 5 was kind of in the middle. 2 and 3 were a little bit less enjoyable. So let's start with 2 and 3. Let's see what we think about them. Then let's go back to some of my favorites. Glass number 3 here. It's solid. It's solid. I mean, there's just nothing super special about it. To me, this is just a really refined American whiskey. Like, you have the cherries, you get really into it. It's almost reminiscent of like Canadian whiskey, like the Obtainium whiskeys. Definitely lower in proof. Definitely not getting as much heat that I would get off of those. But American whiskey, these kind of Canadian whiskeys, when they're not bourbons, they're kind of similar. And it's not a bad thing. And I've had really good American whiskey. I think this is some of the best American whiskey I've ever had. But it doesn't have that richness, that depth that I would hope out of like a really good bourbon. But anyways, let's take a sip and see how we feel. It's good. It's good. Wow, I actually got a good amount of flavor on that one. Caramel in the front palate, a little bit of cherry, and then it kind of gets into like a leather tobacco kind of late palate there. To me, it's actually very reminiscent of like a Michter's 10 bourbon, and I actually believe I've described Michter's 10 bourbon as a front palate of caramel, a mid palate of cherry, and a late palate of tobacco. So that's kind of funny. So this actually wouldn't surprise me if this was the bourbon, but to me, yeah, I mean, there's a good amount of flavor on it. It's enjoyable for sure. But it's just kind of simple. Like, I would like multiple flavors working together at the same time, along the same levels, whereas I think this one, it's not relatively one note. There are actually 3, 4, 5, 6 flavors that I could name off of this, but it's kind of like I'm just not getting them at the same time, which is weird. Like, it starts off and it develops, and the development is good, but I think I just want more depth. I think it's the depth here that's really hurting it. I think because it's not bad on complexity. I mean, complexity is, how many notes do you have? How well are they working together? I think it's okay on the complexity, but the depth is the richness of those flavors. Like, how complex is that plum note? How complex is that cherry note? Is it different kinds of cherries working together? Those kinds of things. Where I think it has some complexity. It doesn't have a ton of depth. Let's take this final little sip here and let's give it a rating. Solid. 7.7. It's good. It's good. It's very good. I think if that bottle was like 150 bucks, I'd buy it. I obviously don't know what that bottle is because I really don't know the secondary market on a lot of these bottles. Maybe I'll look into it a little bit and share it with you guys as I'm editing the video. It's good. Let's try glass number 2. This one just became sweeter and more herbal. So actually a little bit more depth on it, but not as complex as I think glass number 3 was, and a flavor profile that I just don't enjoy as much. But let's take a sip. It's fine. It's fine. It's like basic caramel. Now imagine caramel, vanilla, and then some herbs. It's relaxing. It's nothing crazy. Whatever proof it is, it doesn't drink that proof. It drinks 10 or 15 proof below it. It's light. It's okay. Nothing that really surprises me. Nothing that really impresses me. 7.4. And that might be a little bit generous. I could even see on some days rating it even lower. But I think because it has a nice sweetness to it, because it does have two things working together at least decently well, 7.4 I think is pretty fair here, but yeah, definitely a good bit worse than glass number 3. But let's try glass number 5. Oh, that's sweet. Oh, that is sweet. Yeah, that's like really nice caramel on this one. Definitely some vanilla. Let's take a sip. It's actually very similar to glass number 3. As I go back to it here, it's actually a little bit more herbal on that last go around. I actually may like glass number 3 a little bit more than glass number 5. They're very close though. I mean, like I could see myself easily going either way. I think glass number 3 here, if you had the caramel, you had the cherry, and then you had that kind of tobacco leathery on the end, whereas I think this one is more of that caramel, more of that tobacco, but more herbal than it is cherry forward, and I like cherries. If I choose between cherry on my whiskey and kind of like herbal, mint, cloves, I always choose cherry. I like fruit in my whiskeys, and I think 3 just had a little bit more fruit on this one, but let's take another sip here. Let's just make sure. Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's 7.6. I think it's still a good bit better than glass number 2, but I like glass number 3 a little bit more. Not much more. I could go either way on some I think most days I probably prefer glass number 3, but yeah, they're pretty close. Let's go to glass number 4. So this is the one that I just think is the rye. There's one rye in this flight. It tastes like a rye to me. We'll find out pretty soon, and I'll set all my predictions soon enough, but yeah, I mean, this is just rye candy galore, and it's good. I mean, it's really, really nice. Let's take a sip. It's great. It's great. Very solid. 7.9. I think it's better than a Michter's barrel strength rye. I think it's better than like an Old Forester barrel strength rye. I don't think it's something that's going to blow you away. I think it's a solid, honest pour. It's a rye whiskey that has some leather elements to it, that has like a good amount of caramel, vanilla on it, and really strong rye candy. Actually, I'm going to up that. Now, this deserves to be in the 8s. You know, let's take another sip here. Yeah, you know what? That's an 8.1. Yeah, I like that. I think that's really good. I think if it was 200 bucks, I'd buy that. I think if it's a lot more than that, if it's $400 or $500, $600, I'm gonna step away a little bit. I'm gonna let others enjoy it. But yeah, like 200 bucks, that's solid. Let's try glass number 1. Oh, interesting. It's similar to 3 and 5 here. Let's take a sip. Okay. But honestly, it's a little bit less refined than glass 3 at least. So on the first go around, I thought this was the bourbon. I'm thinking glass number 3 might be the bourbon, and this might be an American whiskey. Now as I get really into it here. But 1, 3, and 5 here, they're not that far apart, which is interesting because 2 of them are much higher proof, but a really rich bourbon can drink a little bit hotter. American whiskey tends to drink a lot lower. It's pretty rough on the nose now that I keep going back to it here. Whereas I think there's really nice sweetness on glass number 3. Let's get another sip. I could go either way on that one. I would say it's also 7.7. But I think I like glass number 3 more. I think on the first go around, I liked glass number 1 a good bit more. I think as I went back to it, tried other things, yeah, glass number 1 here is just a little bit rougher around the edges. It's a little bit hotter for me. I like the mellowness of glass number 3. But honestly, I think glass number 4 won. So I'm going to go over my guesses here. So we have glass number 2 here in last place. I think this is the Old Sport. Old Sport, 8 to 9 year American whiskey. It's not the age of the American whiskeys that we have in this flight. I don't think it's the caliber of anything we have in this flight. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's the Old Sport. We'll find out in a second. I think glass number 5 here and glass number 1 of the American whiskeys. I obviously have no way to even guess the batches here. American Batch 3, American Batch 11. They're pretty similar in stats. I have literally no idea what they could be. I think glass number 3 here is the bourbon. I think glass number 4 here is the rye. Let's find out what we're having. So let's grab our note cards here, and we will line these up a little bit by their rating. So in last place here, glass number 2 is going to be the Old Sport. Okay, so we were right about that one. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. For $250, I don't think it's worth it. I think half the price, it would have been much closer to worth it. I don't even know if I'd pay half the price on it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard inconsistent things. I've heard that some of the barrels are really special. Other of the barrels aren't nearly as good. So maybe we'll try some other Old Sports and see if they're better. I'm not impressed with that. Yeah, it's fine. For the start of a single barrel program here, it's a start. Hopefully it gets a little bit better. Glass number 5 here. So I thought this was one of the American whiskeys here. Oh, this is actually the bourbon. Oh, that's fun. Wow, okay, so let's see if these 2 are the American whiskeys here. So glass number 1, I believe, is next, and that is American Batch 11. Okay, cool, so American Batch number 3 and the rye are left. I think glass 4 is the rye. Guess we'll find it in a second. Glass number 3 is American Batch 3. Okay, so the rye here is the winner. Let's just absolutely confirm here. It is Rye Batch 12. Okay, so that means Old Sport's in last. Then we had the bourbon, actually. That might be a little bit surprising to people. I actually thought the bourbon would do a little bit better. Then we had American Batch 11 here. So American Batch 11. And then American Batch 3. And then we had the rye in first place. So those are our rankings here. And then the Old Sport would be right here in last place. Predictions were okay. I mean, honestly, I narrowed down the Old Sport. I narrowed down the rye. I think the Americans and the bourbons here, not that different. But going back to them, yeah, I mean, if you told me any of these were an American, I believe you. If you told me any of these were a bourbon, I'd probably still believe you. So, yeah, pretty good here. That's Old Carter for you. So I thought the rye was solid. Would I pay MSRP on the rye? I'll let you know, because I have to check the MSRP on that bottle. If it's like $200, sure. I pay $200 for that. I don't think these are absolutely stellar whiskeys that you absolutely have to have, but I kind of get it. It's unique. I think it's like a Michter's 10 bourbon, but a little bit more proof on a lot of them, which honestly makes it a really solid pour. Michter's 10 bourbon, just not really a pour for me, but I know it's a pour for a lot of people out there. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all had fun. This was a very fun flight. Thank you so much, Marcos, for sharing the Old Sport sample, even though it got dead last. And thank you so much, Nick Garcia, for sharing all these Old Carters. I know he's a big fan of them. I hope you don't get too mad at me for saying that these may not be super worth their full secondaries all the time, but they are still very good. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you all so much for watching all the way to the end. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.